You're listening to WKDW Radio 97.5 and KDWRadio.com, broadcasting from the Bishop West Real Estate Mobile Tower right here in absolutely always gorgeous, but now rainy Northport, Florida. We're getting a torrential downpour out there. So just a quick reminder, I haven't done this for a few weeks, but it seems appropriate today. Oil and water make a great sliding surface. If you're going 80 on 75 and trying to stop, it's probably not a good idea. Let's get everybody home safe for the weekend. Everybody slow down, take a deep breath, and just take your time getting home. Those roads are not going to be friendly today, and there is no reason to end up at Sarasota Memorial or Venice or any of those other great hospitals. Just slow it down and take your time. I've got a really special guest in the house today, and you know we've been friends for a long time, and I'm kind of excited about this conversation we're about to have. Peter Bartollota. We've got some history to talk about, but it's kind of funny how the history is current. And with the new city manager coming on board, I think everybody should get excited about the opportunity that the man has. I think we all should get behind him and really show our support and bring him into this city and wrap our arms around us and give him a good old welcome. And I'm going to do that right now with you, Peter Bartollota, and say welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. It's good to be here. Exciting times.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
You bring up a good point, and I really want to begin to shift some of the conversation that we've been having over the past couple of weeks, which we've been pretty much coming on pretty strong with the city and some of the issues associated with the city, and be they right or wrong or whatever. The point is, we've got a new city manager coming on board,
right.
And this guy has got what I think are some of the best credentials. I know Commissioner McDowell wants him to be certified, but I want a city manager that has experience managing hundreds of people, which he does. A city manager who's got experience managing 100,000 plus budget, which he does. A city manager that has actually gotten things done. And he's done all of this, except he's done it in a county, not a city. But right. I think he's going to be a breath of fresh air to the city. So I want to shift our conversation a little bit, John, and let's talk about Northport's potential future. We've talked about things about medical city of the future, regional entertainment centers, entrepreneurial hubs, War Mineral Springs, restaurant incubators, ecotourism, community centers, all this, but it takes leadership to define the concept. We've never really had the leadership at the government level. We've had it at the residence level. And if we talk about some of the things I sent to you, one of those leaders, in my opinion, is a guy named Ron Sanders, who's an artist. The furthest thing from my mind of somebody that could actually put these concepts together. He received a commission from the federal government to mint a coin. I mean, the guy is really talented and lives in Northport, used to live in Northport. He's moved to Punta Gorda, but maybe thinking about coming back. Wonderful ideas. And we need that leadership, but we need to also have it at the city level. Let the private sector make it happen. Government gets involved when it has to. Government should not lead on these things because they're not equipped to do that. Just create the environment for the opportunity to exist. And a good example of this is Welland Park. I wasn't able to go to the opening, but everybody I've talked to there said it was amazing on what we're going to have at Welland Park as a town center. It's going to be very similar to Babcock Ranch, I think, but it's going to have its own distinct flavor, and it's going to be a really exciting place for Northport residents to go and spend an evening. Can you imagine that? You go out, have dinner, and then actually without getting back in your car, you'll be able to do other things.
And so in Northport.
Right in Northport, in one place. You spend an hour and a half, maybe you had a meal, and spend another hour and a half dancing, or going out and taking a stroll along the lake, or just really neat place. If you haven't done it, folks, get out and look at the Welland Park. I'm sure they have it on their website, the concept, and it's just wonderful. We can have things like that in Northport, but we need leadership. So I'd like to talk about what some of those things are.
All right. So let's cue in Maria. I think she's listening still. And
Okay.
cue her in. If you want to put something up, just tell her what form they are. I think you emailed them to her too, didn't you?
No, I sent them to you.
That's all right.
Sorry.
I'll send one to her now.
Okay, send to the Entertainment District 14B. Now, this is a map that my dear friend Ron Sanders put together. It actually started at Vision Northport. This is going back to 2006, 2008. So a lot of the same things we're talking about today, we were talking about back then. But we really had a lot of citizens involved in actually putting pieces together. And people wanted a place that was a town center of some type. So, Ron, the group actually identified a piece of property. Ron got a visual of it, I guess through Google Earth or whatever. And he actually started to doodle, because I was just talking to him today on how did he come about with, make this, come up with this. And he started to doodle on what you can do with this property and what the residents of Northport were looking for. And, when I doodle, you get stick figures.
Right.
When, and that's if you're lucky. When Ron doodles, it really is magic. The man is just an amazing artist, and he actually built a town center on paper to scale. And let me read a list of some of the things that are on it. A family bowling and entertainment center, an ice skating rink, an exhibition hall, a botanical garden and a botanical and jungle garden, a stage and theater, an art center. You hear that, folks? At the art center, a new one. An outdoor retail dining and entertainment center, condos, restaurants, resort hotel, miniature golf, motel, office towers, apartments. Unbelievable in one location. And tens of thousands of square footage for retail and restaurants. And this was done on 130 acres.
So I want to step back just for a second, because
I'm excited.
I know. And seriously, you could jump through the screen, because there's a reason that you have this passion for this, and you're rejuvenated here again, and it's because this stuff it's 12 years old.
Yeah.
So we're talking about the same thing.
There it is.
Yeah, we're talking about the same thing that we were talking about in the group 12 years ago, 13 years ago. And a lot of these similar concepts are actually happening today, maybe in a different format, but those conversations can leapfrog into this conversation very quickly, especially with how everything is working.
And, without getting political on it, all of this has been presented to the city. This plan was presented to the economic development director. Nothing's been done. That's over 3 or 4 years ago now. It's been presented to commissioners. Some commissioners say that's really nice. Wow, how do we make that happen? Other commissioners say we don't want people coming to Northport. We want to keep it a small town. So the work that residents did with Vision Northport and other groups, it gets frustrating because nothing happens.
Right.
Now, this did not happen sitting down at the kitchen table and drawing this out in 15, 20 minutes. This was a lot of work this man put into it. And he went out and he literally spoke with department heads and people in the city. How do you get something like this going? I've done the same thing, and I'm absolutely convinced the way to do it is to present the concept to the private sector, present some ideas to them, make sure the city is on board with listening, truly listening to those opportunities with the intent to execute if it makes sense and meets the city's goals, and then let it fall where it may. So this is the answer, folks, right here. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing.
Well, and there's answers here, but there's adjustments that can be made to this stuff, correct?
This is an artist's rendering.
Right.
You can modify this whole thing. The point is, it can be, yes, 130 acres, which, by the way, is still available. And it's up around it's off Toledo Blade. I'll say that. But the property's still there. We can do something.
It needs to happen. Actually, that area can be quite of an impact to the city of Northport. And the one nice thing we have with Toledo Blade and Sumter is we have easy access off of 75. That's right. And we have two corridors that are really underperforming if you look up and down 75. And I know that I addressed this with one of the commissioners already because it's been a hot topic of mine because we need water and sewer out that way because we're getting trounced everywhere else because they already have water and sewer. I think things are going to change as soon as we get water and sewer out that way to either one of those four corners.
Yeah, it's good.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's water and sewer is going to definitely attract. Here's my fear, and John, you've known me for years, even back in the Vision Northport days. Yep. Why did we create that? It was because without a vision for the city, developers will develop to their vision. And that's what's happening to us right now. We're putting affordable housing in prime retail locations. Why? Because there's no vision. And I don't want to get negative. I want to say let's talk about the possibilities, but it's got to start with a plan. And I'm concerned if they put water and sewer out there, yeah, that property is going to start taking off. But I've talked to developers who are trying to put in storage units on that property. Now, how is that benefiting Northport?
It just makes everybody have a place to put their stuff.
That's it.
It's amazing when you sit back and you think about the construction of a town. And I this is not a negative aspect. We are not 75 years old. I think we have to have a good vision for the future at the age we are right now. Go ahead and address that question. Read it out loud from William, and I'll let you have it.
Hey, William, how you doing? He wants to know what do you gentlemen believe will be the primary issues of the next campaign? At least 3.
Oh.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, one of them I think would be I would like to see people run who have a vision for Northport, or at least a part of it, and that understand what they want to do and how to do it. And I tell people, when you talk to candidates, there's only 3 questions a candidate needs to answer in my book. Only 3. What are you going to do? And a lot of them will tell you lots of things. But the second part of the question is, how are you going to do it? That's when you usually start getting them, stuttering. And the last question is, what's it going to cost me? So I think we can do that. We need to have a plan. So I'd like to see candidates coming in that have some experience in business on planning, so that they can understand and discuss with staff what's happening. Without that experience, then they have to learn on the job, and that's going to take a minimum of a year, 6 months to a year, so we get wasted time. So I'd like to see that with the candidates. The second thing I'd like to see is, I moved here from Boca Raton, Bill. I don't know if you know this. I'm saying to Bill English. And part of it was because it was too crowded. It got overgrown. And it was plastic. Everything was phony. And I fell in love with Northport because it had a hometown flavor. It had a lot of environmentally, a lot of the environment was still out there to enjoy. I'd like to keep that. Let's figure out a way, how do we integrate the environment into our economy so that they don't wind up 20 years from now building on that land. So there's got to be a way to tie it together. I've got some ideas. I'm sure other people have ideas. But if you don't tie those environmentally sensitive properties into a fiscal plan for the city, sooner or later you're going to lose it. So those are two things that I'd like to see, and I'll leave the third one to you, John. What would you like?
I actually think people are. We've got to find a way to get them motivated to vote to begin with. Chuck knows that that's a pet peeve of mine to start with, and I think before we talk about topics of what's going to be important for the next election, I think when you have 18% of the people voting for it, I don't think it matters anymore. There's a core group of people out there that kind of dictate the vote, and it's because the other 82% of the population is not voting. I think we have got to find a way, and I'm excited about this. First off, that I heard from the commissioners that Jerome, the new city manager, has the approach of we have to meet people where they're at. Well, our government has it's got a tendency of showing itself up when we have events. Our government stops doing those things, the outreach type of things. The city of Northport is really good with the outreach. They're really good at getting information out and pushing information out and trying to keep people updated. I think we lose focus on projects like what you're talking about today and elections when they're so distracted with life itself that people forget. And I hope the city manager does this and shows up at high school football games and doesn't sit on the bench and walks around and introduces himself and talks to people and tell them to get out and vote, get involved. We need somebody who is more of a rah-rah guy who gets people excited, so that when it comes to a topic like this, when there is a presentation, it's not just whatever. We might be interested. You have a mass of people behind that. So I think the first thing is figuring out how to get the citizens of Northport excited about the new guy that they don't know. And they don't know him because very few people showed up to learn about him. I don't think half the population even understands that we got a new city manager. Those are things that are important. I think one of the other topics, there's two I'm going to address. And he asked for three, but I'm going to give two. I think what's going to be important is the tree ordinance and water and sewer. I think those are going to be hot topics, and they're not overpowering, but they're both hot topics. And Warm Mill Springs is going to be in the mix. So those are my three. But go ahead, Peter. I don't want to cut you off because it was really a great question by Chuck, because we need to start talking about the positive aspects. What you're talking about now is something that was drafted and cultivated in 07, 08. And let's see. That's another one. Yep. A primary contaminant within the waterways. We talked about that in depth. He's got a great vast of knowledge there. Water's going to be an important factor too, as we go through this. And I think we're starting to get people involved, citizens. I know that Northport Forward 100% agrees with Chuck. So there's a core group of people getting built on keeping the water clean. And I think it's going to be a big factor for us. But go ahead, Peter.
No, those are good points. But, it comes down to, no matter how you slice it, with the studies and everything else, somebody's paying for it. if we don't find alternative tax revenue sources, it's going to be you and me. And I don't know about you guys. I'm on a fixed income. I'm a senior. I'm retired. I'm not working anymore, really. So if they start raising, I mean, I've seen taxes go up huge this year. And we're behind the 8 ball on a bunch of projects right now that we're spending money. We're not getting any return on investment. If we don't find revenue sources, you're not going to have the money to do these studies. So, there's got to be a balance. And I think everything starts with a plan. If you don't have a plan, then anything is a good idea.
I agree. Unified Land Development Code, as the codes are crafted, is a benefit for development, and not the resident taxpayers. You want to talk a little bit about that? Unified
Land, the ULDC, or Unified Land Development Code. I've been working on that. I stopped working on it, but it's been at least 3 times in the last 20 years that they've tried to address this. The code is too detailed. It's way too detailed. What people don't understand is if you've got a code that is, and a developer, anybody can change the code. The code doesn't mean it's in concrete. So if the code says X and a developer wants to do something and that X has to become a Y, they have the option to go before the commission for a variance on that. It's always been that way. It's that way in every city in the country. It's the right that they have as a landowner to go in and ask for a variance. Doesn't mean you got to give it to them, but they have that right. We try to write code with every possible situation tied into it, and that's why it's 1,700 or so pages. It's too long. Developers, when you don't have to worry about it, Chuck, because the developers aren't coming. They look at the code and they say it's a little too complex for me to do business in Northport. They go somewhere else. They're building all around us. Why aren't they building here? They're building spot homes here. Spot building. You're not getting developers except for things like Welland Park, but that was 10,000 acres. They gave up the Orange Hammock, so that property is gone. So that opportunity is gone for any developer that wants to develop a large tract. There aren't that many left in Northport, if there aren't. So you don't really have to worry about that. You're going to get spot home builders, and they're not going to put sewer in, and they're not going to do anything like that. And they're going to lobby at the local level with the ULDC code, because that's who's driving your codes right now, the local businesses. So it's for their benefit. The code should be very simple. And then if you want to change it, go to it, spend the money, and go in front of the commission and do it and ask for a variance. That's the right way to do it. So
do you think we still need to address the ULDC?
Yeah, you got to make it simpler. It's too complex.
Is that a holdback on the progression with getting other opportunities here as far as the bigger stores? And I don't want to go into the big store concept, because with COVID and everything else, their model has completely disintegrated and changed, because now we're distribution centers and different things like that. So, but go ahead.
But yeah, John, big stores don't come to cities.
No.
Big stores don't, little stores don't come to cities. Okay? The way it works is developers build it, and then they sell the property. They reach out to the big stores and whatever, and they try to get them to come in. I've had developers tell me they're not coming back to Northport, period. And they'll tell the commissioner, hey, we love working with you guys. You're going to be high on our list, and they're out of here, and they're gone. Because they're not going to upset people, so they don't want to say the truth, but they're tired of the issues that are going on in Northport. And it comes down, and I don't want to really get into it, be talking this way, because it's so negative. I want to keep on the positive. Let's talk about the opportunities that we have before us, and let's see if we can get people in the audience. Chuck and William are the same, by the way, folks.
Yes, absolutely.
So let's get people talking about, give me your vision. What would you see? And then we have something to talk about. And forget code, forget all that other stuff, because none of it matters until you have your plan. I mean, that's the way it works. I'm sorry, if you don't like it, then that's fine. But that is the way it works. You know, I use this example. A real estate agent begins the process usually. They call a developer. Hey, Chuck, we've got this piece of property. It's, 2,000 acres. It fits your model. Blah, 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 blah. Come on, take a look at it. So the developer sends one of his guys out. They look at it. It fits our model. They turn around, and if they want to buy it, they'll put the minimum amount they can down, and they say, we want to have due diligence to do our due diligence. We want a year to do due diligence on the property, make sure the ground is right, all this stuff. What they actually do in that year is they call the Kimberley Horns of the world and the Stantec's, the planning companies, and they come in and they optimize that property. They say, if you took that 2,000 acres and you made this much of it affordable housing and this much of it multifamily and this much of it single resident and this much commercial, here's what you can get return on your investment. Okay? And if it fits the model, they turn around and they buy it. And then they go before the commission with their plan. And this is what we need to make this plan work. Can we modify this a little bit? Can we modify that a little bit? You've seen it happen day after day after day. Bill, you've seen it happen in commission meetings. That's the way it works. Whether you like it or not, that's the way it works. And I can tell you firsthand experience with that.
Right there. Go ahead and read that out loud.
Sustainability was put forth in the first Unified Land Development Code and the Comprehensive Plan. This is a violation of, okay, whenever I hear Kimberley Horn, I think it's general development. Whatever you think it is, Bill, it's the way it is. That's the life. That's how it works. If you don't like it, then you got to stand up, I guess, and elect people that will stop all development. But there's a consequence to that. The cost of government goes up every single year. You still got to get your garbage picked up. You got to look at your tax bill and look at what you're paying. So what you do is you're forcing spot building. Spot building says, oh, you like this piece of property? It's at the end of the cycle. There's not a home within 3 miles of you, but they still have to run a garbage truck out there. The fire department has to service you. The police department has to service you. It's added cost with no additional income coming in. How do you sustain the city? Sustainability works on two sides. You also got to sustain the budget, the finances. And Northport is 104 square miles. It's the third largest city in the state of Florida, third or fourth in square miles. It's the largest city by population in the Tri-County area, and it's growing in leaps and bounds.
And it's not going to stop unless we have government, local government, stop it. And I don't know that they can right now.
Well, you can. Here's how you stop it. Put elected officials in who don't want any more development. Trust me, the developers won't come here. If they're not going to be able to work with the government, they've got tons of other properties they can work with. But keep this in mind. When there's no more property left, they'll come back with a vengeance. Okay, and whoever you got in office, you better make sure you keep environmental people in there that are stopping all this development while everybody else's taxes are going up. Because at some point, I'll just close on this, the residents whose taxes are going up, all of a sudden don't care as much about the trees and the gopher tortoises and everything else. So how do you work together to make it a sustainable community? And if you want to know how to do it, call Sid Kitson. He did it, and he continues to do it. Take a tour of that ranch and learn what sustainability truly is. He's a developer. He is, and he's building one of the greatest sustainable communities in the country right now.
Right. Very hot.
Why can't others do that? Who in our commission has called Sid and asked him how is he doing it? There was an article in the paper where he said, I'll talk to anybody who wants to. Sid's a good friend of mine. He's brilliant on what he is accomplishing there. Why isn't our economic development director calling him?
I don't know that they haven't.
They haven't. They haven't. Other than to have them speak at a conference. That's about it. I can tell you that for a fact.
Well, and you know, I know that we started this out with the tempo being a little different, but actually, the reason I like doing these shows is people have different opinions across the board, and it's funny to me when I listen on both sides, and I can get why people want to protect things. It's sort of like saying we're going to cut oil production in the United States, but then we're going to let the other countries give us the oil production. We're dropping our greenhouse numbers, but guess what? They're not dropping theirs. So we can just talk crap, or we can actually do something. And there has got to be a good medium to get in there and get stuff done. But unless we all start talking about good growth for Northport, everybody's just bickering. And to me, it sounds like a bunch of childish kind of comments back and forth where, and I'm not saying that to Chuck or Bill, LOL. So it's one of those things. It's that I've heard this over and over again since I've been here. I've listened to elected officials. I've listened to past election officials. Everybody wants something to go. I haven't really met anybody yet that's really found a way to make it go. Right now, a developer who comes here is coming here because their plan fits what we're doing. Welland Park is exactly that. That plan right there, that plan community, that's why it's booming. Notice we're not getting anything further south. They're not even talking about further south. They're talking about Welland Park, Welland Park, Welland Park, Welland Park. Great part of Northport. It's a great part of Northport, and it's going to sustain itself because they're doing the right things in Welland Park. But go ahead.
So, Bill, maybe that's the third criteria for that elected official that's going to run for office. Get somebody who can speak about sustaining the environment and the economy at the same time. And that person, I'm sorry to say, is probably going to come with a pretty strong business background where he understands how to do those things, how to get people together, how to bring them together. And he's probably done it. This is not a learn on the job. And that's what it's been in this city. We have commissioners that are learning on the job. They don't bring credentials with them. They bring a passion for something. And that's all well and good. But then the rubber meets the road. You actually got to make laws and you have to do things. And if you haven't got experience in how to make that work, you can be very easily led. And if you're having difficulty with the way Northport is growing, you look no further than your current commission. The buck stops there. Tell them, figure it out. How do we control this? And look for experienced people. Sorry.
You know, we talk about this stuff about being part of a plan that came out of Vision Northport. We now have Northport Forward, who is really aggressively trying to get involved, get people involved, and kind of re-inspire the voters to talk about their town. If anything, the two are very similar in those regards. And it's, to me, until we as a town have the support within our own community, other communities are going to lead down the road. And yes, while I believe that businesses and growth and development, we need it here because you just explained it. We're at 70,000. We're the third or fourth largest city, landmass. Where our population supports it. And I'm tired. I said this to one of the commissioners. I'm tired of the excuse that they used 15, 20 years ago, which is we don't have enough rooftops. Bullcrap. All you got to do is go down 3 exits, and there's no rooftops, but there's all kinds of growth happening. 3 exits south of here, and I want to keep this on an upswing because Northport is a map. It is a picture waiting to be painted. And I agree with you. If you just throw a whole bunch of paint up on the picture, nobody's going to buy it. But if you create that environment and create that picture, and you can paint it with broad strokes, I think you're in great shape.
Yeah, and to your point, John, about rooftops, I once again I point you to Babcock Ranch, which is a city, by the way. If I'm not mistaken, that is a city.
In the middle of the state, kind of.
It's off Route 80 and 15, about 5 minutes off of Route 80 on Route 15. But here's a vision for a guy that's going to build on 20,000 acres, a city of the future. And one of the first things he builds is a town center with no population, no rooftops. How did he do it? How did he do it? Somebody should be asking him if that's what you want. Now, let me shift the conversation a little bit with Bill and say, Bill, look at this center here. What do you like about it? What don't you like about it? Let's have a conversation about a possible entertainment center, which the city needs, I think. If you don't think we need it, then say that. But if you do, what do you like about it? What don't you like about it? Anybody out there wanting to talk about it, or let's have a conversation.
Which picture did you want to put up?
This one right here.
All right, nice. All right.
Okay, there's a center. Okay, that I think you can get people interested in developing it. Okay.
130 acres.
130 acres, and look at it, 35-acre wetland and a 15-acre lake. So almost a third of the property is protected.
So sustainability for a lot of things.
I think so.
Because you've got your possible growth potential in the commercial market, correct?
I'm sorry?
You have your potential growth in the commercial market, correct?
Yeah, it's concentrated. But that's what you want in a town center. The whole idea is you park your car and walk. And I can walk to a restaurant, I can walk to it's a place where you walk. You don't drive your car up and down the street. So here's a center. Did Chuck get off? Did he leave us?
I don't think so. Chuck, you still there? Chuck's he's watching as far as Facebook goes, but what's your thought on a entertainment center, Mr. English? So I you see all these things, and you Brian Lincoln says, where is this?
Yeah, Brian, this is on the off Toledo Blade up by the interstate. But it's a concept right now, so let's not get into the actual location because that's not relevant. Not yet. What would you want to see in this town center, and what is it you like about it? What don't you like about it?
There are a lot of things that it has great potential for. I'm going to go back. I want to say something to you because if it's not talked about and given a good roadmap now, can't other things be put in here that could stop this from happening?
What do you mean?
Or at least curtail it? You put the wrong things. You put the wrong pieces in here. A lot of these concepts don't work. Let's just use low income housing. Let's say they're going to put some more low income housing in this section. That's 130 acres. If it's not talked about now, and just in concept,
it's too late. It's too late. They've already sold that property. They've given them approval. I think they started construction. So it's too late. It's not going to kill it. whatever is happening, the world goes around this. But what is it inside this center that you like or don't like? I can't find very much, to be honest with you.
Well,
I mean, it's
go through again, because we've had several people jumping on. Go through again and talk about what the center would bring.
Okay, so it's got things in it, and I can't point to them, but a family bowling and entertainment center, an ice skating rink. They're on the top, one on the left and one is on the right. An exhibition hall, a botanical garden and jungle garden, and that's if you look at the existing the lake in the middle, it's on the upper left-hand side. You can see some waterways and walking paths in there. That's kind of cool. A botanical garden and jungle, so you can take the family when they come to visit, and it's a nice place to go. A stage and theater, a new art center, and according to the top, it says the 1 acre art center, 11,500 square feet with an attached art gallery of 3,200 square feet. That's pretty cool. People don't realize it. We have one of the greatest art centers in the city. It's in a horrible location, but these artists are phenomenal, just absolutely phenomenal. An outdoor retail, dining, and entertainment center. There are condos down on the bottom of the map. There's condos and then there's restaurants all over the place. Miniature golf on the upper right-hand corner. A motel. Office towers, so there's office space, apartments, and a resort hotel. If you look in the center there, you see where that water is there? Stop right there. If you kind of look right in the center, coming off the road on the right-hand side, there's a road that drives up and there's a little circle. That's a resort that butts up there. And, it's all here. Everything we've talked about. Now you can take things away, add things, make things bigger, make things smaller. But here's a point to discuss. If people like this, the next question is, how do we get it? It's a plan. Well, I don't know if it's the right plan, but show me yours.
And I got to tell you, it's at least a conversation starter.
Yeah.
To get things moving in the right direction. And I think that the reason that you're talking about this today is because we've got somebody brand new to the city coming in who's going to be leading the city now as a city manager. Yep. How important do you think for him? I know it's not going to be within the first 3 or 4 months, but why not? What do you think of him being excited about opportunities like this? Because
I would hope that's why he took the job. But let me ask you, in the interest of time here, can we jump to the atrium picture? Just a different concept, and it's along the town center kind of approach.
Right.
Amy, everybody knows Amy Schultz. Amy is a wonderful person, owns Kyle Curtis Hair Salon. And she was saying, why can't we get something besides chain restaurants here? What can we do? And this was in Vision Northwood. And a group of us got together, and Ron Sanders, once again, was a part of this group. And the concept we came up with, because she found the graphic, the atrium.
It's in your email, Murray.
It's the restaurant incubator. It would be maybe on that side. But the idea was, what if we had a building that had 5 different restaurants in it, and we could turn around and make it not a food court, but an actual dining experience where you would be able to come in and a maitre d' would welcome you, and then you would say, I want to have Chinese, or I want Italian, or I want French, and you would go to the appropriate restaurant. I think the seating we planned on that was 80 people to a restaurant. And I spoke with a good friend of mine. They own La Roca, Dino and Chris, and that's fine. That's the 5 restaurants, if you look there. The center was an atrium with trees and running water and brooks, and there would be a bar there. And then in the back, there would be another place that would be a table seating with outdoor seating and a bar restaurant there. So the idea is it become a destination. You could eat there every night and have a different, stay at a different restaurant, but it would be open to entrepreneurs. And you know, the price point I came up with in talking to Chris and Dino was the about $3,000 a month. So we built a model that each restaurant owner would pay $3,000 a month rent. And for that, they would get everything: tables, chairs, decorations, the whole 9 yards. They would have to put the kitchen in. That's it. So we're making it available to entrepreneurs. I had a couple of restaurants in Sarasota, well-known restaurants, who heard about this and they wanted to be in. I said, no, it's not for you. It's for entrepreneurs, because we've got some really talented people here. Yep. You know, Tapas One, you know, people that have really good dining experiences, but they're out of the way. And how do you even know they're there? So we built this concept. In order for us to make it work, we needed low-cost financing, and the only way to get that was through the city. It had to be government financed. So we took a business plan to the city, gave it to economic development, where the city lost no money. It was all paid for, because you wouldn't be building this without the restaurant owners already committing to it. So you had a guaranteed income stream coming in. And we built a management structure into it, an advertising structure. So you're only advertising the place, and then people would come, and you know, it could be a gold mine. You can not only have one, you could have 2 or 3 or 4. And again, it's a place where you could go, have dinner, and then sit outside and spend another hour dancing or talking with friends or whatever, and kind of starting to make it where people can enjoy themselves. This was, I think, is a great concept for to get the entrepreneurial restaurateur to come to Northport, open up those nice restaurants, and then when they left after, I think it was 3 years, they would have to leave. They'd have to open in Northport, or they had to pay a big penalty. So we kind of let the restaurants grow here, give them an incubator, and then put them out to the community. So those are some of the 2 ideas that we came up with at Vision Northport. And I think the residents of this city know what they want. And you can see from these 2, and I've got more that I could show you at another date, and maybe that's what we'll do from now on, John, is talk about the opportunities. Right. And then how do we get these people involved to get it going? And I think Bill is asking the right question. What do you expect from the next commissioner? And if you expect the city to stay the way it is, then elect somebody who's going to do that. If you want the city to pay for itself, elect somebody to do that, but make sure they're qualified. Ask them 3 questions. What are you going to do? How are you going to do it? And how much is it going to cost me? Because talk is cheap.
Well, and you know that every election has consequences. That is something that I'm going to remember the rest of my life, because every election has consequences, and it has consequences on both sides of the aisle. Because if you're opposing growth, I got to tell you can't be pleased right now because we're booming. If you're with growth, you're overjoyed right now. But everybody who's kind of wringing their hands on both sides of that conversation, I think ultimately I would think that as a community, we have to sit back and say, are we growing it so the tax dollars are growing the right way, so our taxes don't go up as residents? A small increase is one thing, but if we keep growing at the pace we're growing now, and we don't bring other revenue sources in, do you think they're going to end up going higher?
Sure. And what you want, you know, if you want it to stay the way it is, or you want it to grow, the next question you have to ask yourself is it growing the way I want it to? Or is it staying the way I wanted it to? And if the answer is no, then we've got an election coming up in 2 years.
Right.
And there's going to be 3 seats open. Okay, that could change the entire complexion of the commission. And whatever you do, if we're going to have growth, and for people who know me, I'm pro economic development. And I always define economic development this way. Would you agree that the cost of living is going up? Everybody says yes. Do you agree the cost of government goes up by at least that much? Everybody says yes. Do you want to pay for it, or do you want somebody else to? Most people want somebody else to. That's economic development. It's not buildings, it's not any of that. It's just creating alternative tax bases. How do we do that? And if we need a plan, and I challenge, ask anybody in the city, from your economic development manager to your city manager to your city commissioners, show me the plan that I can understand. Don't show me the comp plan, that's code. Show me the visionary plan for this city. What's it going to look like in 10 years, in 20 years, in 50 years? We don't have it, folks. So without a plan, we're getting built out the way somebody else wants to build us.
If Chuck is listening right now, I wish he would just chime in and say I agree with that, or disagree with that. But and anybody else who's listening out there, if you have a comment on that topic, just that piece right there, if that doesn't make you want to respond one way or the other, there's a problem there on both sides of that, because what you just explained is in layman terms is pretty simple. John Cook just said Northport has got to be the only town or city in Florida without a tiki bar, dance floor, band area.
No, we have a tiki bar at the Atlanta Braves, don't we?
Yeah, we do have a tiki bar at the Atlanta Braves. I would have to classify that a little different than what he is, but it is open all the time. Yep. So they are doing that. Put that back up by Mr. English, please. I am pro community.
What does that mean?
What do you mean by that, Bill? I'm not quite sure what. I know he said please vote. Go ahead, read that out loud, Peter.
Last point of discussion, it's not a matter of what, it's a matter of how. Is it in the best interest of our community or the developer? Excuse me. Leave the question out, please. Okay, can you put the question back up? Yeah, and Bill, I agree with you, but we don't have that plan. You know what we're challenging are developers' plans. Developers are just going to develop what they can develop because the city allows them to.
Let me say this, because I know both of you guys, and the funny thing is, if the developer comes in here anyway and does whatever he wants, and we don't have a plan for it, your community bill is going to be developed without your input.
That's right.
So that's how I see it. I think you guys are kind of on the same conversation. I think you're leading in the right way with each other. I think there's some differences along the way. There always is. I think the difference is sitting on this side listening. I have listened to both of you. And I know that Mr. English is not about just letting it happen. He's got a plan in his head. Well, how about the developers taking that plan away from you, and then you're just frustrated and you're having a time of your life, I guess, on a Friday. But anyway, Peter, it was nice talking with you.
Always a pleasure.
Talk to you soon. Okay. And have a great day. Okay.
Thanks.
All right. Bye-bye.
Stay safe.